Hello everyone! Welcome to my channel. You'll see what we mean when you take a peek at the new bold and beautiful preview below for August 25th to 29th. We're sure Katie means well by telling son Will, you don't ever have to think about this mystery girl ever again. But of course, the next shot is Luna, aka the young woman who raped him, and she's smiling that loco smile that says loudly and clearly that she isn't done with him, not by a long shot. This, despite major issues with the storyline. Though Will is racked with guilt over what he can't remember was not a betrayal of girlfriend Electra, but a sexual assault, he nevertheless manages to put aside those heavy thoughts to make love with his significant other. "You are everything I've ever dreamed of in a guy," she whispers. If only he didn't have a homicidal psycho hot on his trail. In other developments, Ivy reminds Hope that we all thought that we were going to lose Liam just in time for him to tell his ex-wife and Beth that nothing is more important to me than the two of you. Cut to Carter looking worried. And if we were him, we would be too. Based on this week's spoilers, it sounds an awful lot like Hope is going to be called upon to choose between her former spouse and her current fiancé. Here's what Annika Noel has to say about that situation. The Forrester mansion glittered that evening, its chandeliers catching the firelight from the marble hearth. A storm rumbled outside, the kind of rain that seemed to promise change. Inside, the silence was heavy, broken only by the faint crackle of flames and the restless pacing of Will Spencer. At 21, Will was no longer the wide-eyed boy caught between his parents' endless battles. He had grown into a man who carried both the charm of his father, Bill, and the determination of his mother, Katie. But unlike them, he carried secrets. Secrets that led him here. To her, Electra Marinos. She was stunning, Greek, mysterious, and as unpredictable as the storm outside. Her jet-black hair framed a face of sharp beauty, and her green eyes had a way of cutting through every layer of defense. Will had met her only weeks ago, yet she'd quickly become the one person who made him forget all the chaos of his family. The problem? Electra was dangerous, not in the cartoonish Sheila Carter way, but in the subtle way a flame draws a moth, bright, intoxicating, and fatal if you got too close. And Will, despite all his better judgment, couldn't stay away. The tension builds. "Why are you here?" Electra's voice was low, accented, carrying both warning and invitation. She stood by the bar, her slender fingers tracing the rim of a crystal glass she hadn't even touched. Will swallowed hard. "You know why." "Do I?" she challenged, lifting a brow. "You said you were done, that it was too dangerous, that your family— my family always has opinions." He cut her off, his voice rising before softening again. "But I'm tired of living for them. I came here for you." For a moment, silence. Only the storm answered. Lightning flashed across the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating her features, sharp, breathtaking, untouchable. She shook her head, almost laughing. "You're reckless, just like your father." That stung. Will bristled but didn't back down. "I'm not my father. I make my own choices. Tonight, I choose you." Her eyes softened, betraying the mask of indifference she wore. And that was it, the crack in her armor. The pull of desire. She didn't resist when he stepped closer, didn't protest when his hand brushed hers, when his fingers trailed lightly against her wrist. The air between them was thick, charged. "Will," she whispered, her voice trembling, though whether from fear or want, even she didn't know. He leaned in, his breath warm against her ear. "Tell me to go, and I will, but if you don't—" She didn't tell him to go. The glass slipped from her hand, landing with a soft thud on the rug, forgotten. In the next heartbeat they collided, lips desperate, searching, claiming. It wasn't soft or sweet. It was raw, hungry, and long denied, the kind of kiss that erased doubts and ignited fire. His hands tangled in her hair, hers gripped his shoulders. Every touch was a dare, every gasp a promise. They stumbled back toward the sofa, too consumed by the gravity between them to care about anything else. Crossing the line. When they fell onto the cushions, the storm outside roared louder, as if the universe itself protested. But neither cared. Will's jacket landed on the floor, followed quickly by Electra's silk wrap. "Are you sure?" she breathed, even as her fingers trailed the buttons of his shirt. "I'm never been more sure," he murmured, pulling her close again. And with that, the line was crossed. Their bodies moved together in sync, urgency giving way to tenderness, passion deepening into something more dangerous than either had planned. They weren't just two people giving in to desire, they were two souls binding themselves in a way neither fully understood. The storm raged on, but inside the mansion, the fire burned brighter. The aftermath. When it was over, the silence was deafening. Electra lay against his chest, her hair spilling across him like ink. Will's hand absently traced circles along his arm, but his mind was far from calm. "This changes everything," she whispered, her voice fragile now. "I know," he admitted, pressing a kiss to his temple. "And I don't care." She pulled back, searching his face. "You should care. Your mother, your father, if they find out." "They'll find out eventually," he interrupted. "But it doesn't matter. I want you, Electra. That's all I know." Her heart clenched. She wanted to believe him, wanted to fall into the reckless hope shining in his eyes, but she knew better. Life in Los Angeles, life around the Forresters and Spencers, was never that simple. "Will, I'm not who you think I am," she confessed, a tear escaping despite her attempted strength. He frowned. "What do you mean?" "I have enemies, connections, people who wouldn't hesitate to use you against me. If we keep this going, you'll be dragged into my world, and once you're in, there's no getting out." Will didn't hesitate. "Then drag me in, because I'd rather risk everything than lose you." Electra's breath caught. No one had ever chosen her like that, not without strings, not without caution. It was dangerous, irresponsible, impossible. But as she looked at him, this young man who saw her not as a threat, but as a woman worth fighting for, she realized she couldn't walk away. A dangerous future. The storm eased outside, but inside the mansion, another storm had only just begun. They didn't know Katie was already suspicious of her son's late nights. They didn't know Bill had put a private investigator on Electra. They didn't know Sheila, watching from the shadows of her own schemes, had already guessed what was happening. All they knew was the pull of each other, the danger of desire, and the fire that had been lit tonight. Will and Electra had crossed a line, and in true bold and beautiful fashion, there would be no turning back.